sorry, it's a new computer and it's being odd. Okay. So I got my first camera in 1967, a Sheikah twin lens, and I used it. And I had a friend that had a Canon 35, and I used it mainly for publications. I was a chemistry major, physical chemistry, but I dropped out of college to be part of the Poor People's Campaign when we eliminated poverty in the 60s, all the way to Memphis and Resurrection City. Afterwards, I went back to college and decided to leave chemistry after working in chemistry for about 8 months and getting a beryllium infection, and realized I had no idea what I was doing. And I decided to study painting and art history. I ended up being very lucky to get a job at Community College of Philadelphia, a slide librarian cataloging their new slide collection for art history classes. I knew a system based on Harvard University. And I stayed there 40 years, but I moved around. And I, again, took photographs mainly for publication. In 1979, I was living at 115 North 3rd Street, and my loft burned down at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I lost all my photographs and negatives. But I kept some of the posters, and these are posters. After art college in Penn, I, with a group of people from Philadelphia College of Art, started Bricolage Theater, which we performed mainly in Philadelphia and New York, and probably for about 3 or 4 years. Then I went to the Roma Project, and I was writing plays and working with Chris Hayes. Roma Project is before Blanco and Yowie came in, excuse me, non-repertory. And we were doing original work and touring Pennsylvania. The poster on the right, it's from a photograph I took. I probably stuck it on a photostat machine. That's why the contrast is what it is. And I probably did hundreds of these posters. But I decided to experiment, and I met somebody who told me if you worked on fiber paper, you could apply paint. And this is my first attempt to apply all paint to fiber-based paper, and it's all paint on a 35 millimeter print. And I sat there and I slowly did it. That's one of my paintings. I decided to see if I could apply color to it. And I kind of liked it, but I think because I came from a painting background, I thought I was combining photography and painting at that particular point. But I kept doing it, and this is a more complicated one. It's medium format camera. One of our daughters, and again, it's a black and white print, probably a fairly good size print, which allowed me to apply more color. And that's normal oil paint, the same kind you would use if you were painting. This is one of the first ones I actually exhibited. Again, it's our two daughters. And when I first started, I kept experimenting with family pictures. Most of the stuff I'm going to show is not family pictures. You don't have to worry about that. The one on the left is, I moved out to view cameras, and that's a view camera. My wife. The one on the right is a park. I live in near Lancaster Avenue, near Overbrook High School. And there's a couple parks out here. We would go over and take pictures. And I liked doing this, so I continued to do it for a while. That's one of our daughters and her uncle in Morris Park. and it's a 35 millimeter print. Actually, this ended up in the State Museum somehow. And my oldest daughter, we would torture her with photographs. We have 3 daughters. Okay, I did some experiments with non-family images. I put a painting behind a goldfish bowl. The actual painting is a different colors totally, and I thought the red worked better with the goldfish. Okay, because of my relationship to Roma Project, particularly, I always have been around performers, and I knew people from Temple Dance, who I worked with for years. This is from the Academy of Music Green Room, and it's the Opera Company of Philadelphia, and the big guys are the executioners from Turandot. I met the guy who was in charge of the extras in opera, they're called supers, and I got invited to do a whole group of photo series for them. And these are the people waiting to go down to the stage. Now, opera performances are amazingly complex. I was stunned. I knew very little of opera, but I knew a lot about theater, and how they can bring it together was just remarkable. But I would hang around with a camera, both in the green room, and if I can click in the right place, and on stage. This is 2,000 feet, which is a citywide dance festival in the year 2000. I was invited to take images by one of the women. By that time, PCA had become University of the Arts, and my daughter was going to school there, and I met the woman running the festival, and she knew I did performance photography, so I was invited to do this. It's a noon performance in City Hall of a tap team. I was behind the stage. This is actually on the stage of the Academy of Music, and Pearl Fisher is the opera. I would stand in the ring and try to take pictures. It was a hit and miss because of the light and other reasons in terms of the movement. Again, this is the Academy of Music stage. I'm probably on stage right taking these pictures. I mean, I hung around there for several years doing this kind of thing. This is Merriman Theater, I think, and it was part of another festival with a company from, I think, the Netherlands. I could be incorrect. Another photograph from City Hall. I like the outdoor ones, of course, because the light was better. And by this time, I had gotten a really decent film camera. I'm still shooting film at this point. Leica M3, bought used, no electronics at all. Totally wonderful, wonderful camera. I used it for so many things. I got so used to it, I could tell the light settings inside without using my light meter. There's a Chinese troupe from Taiwan who came to perform. The left is Philadanko's student. They have 2 groups. They have their main performance group and a younger group. That's the younger group performing at City Hall. The one on the right, I would hang around in the green room at the Academy of Music. And those are 2 kids playing, torturing each other. Again, ready to go on stage. And again, these are the big men of Turandot, the executioners. The director come in from Italy to direct Turandot, and he told the guy who recruited the extras, the supers, he wanted really big, fat men, and he had to go out and find them. So we had a whole group of them. Belize. In 1990, my cousin, who was teaching at Temple University, who was an economic historian, found a book in the Temple Library about British Honduras that we knew very little about. And we were looking at the pictures, and for some ungodly reason decided to go there. We both had some extra money. The one on the picture on the totally right, we rented a four-wheel drive Jeep. That's a normal road in those days. I'm sure it's not much better. I found the Huxley quote about Belize, which I really, really like, because it's probably true. It's the most amazing country. It's the only Central American country which is not overpopulated. They don't have land issues and people fighting about that. They're a totally multiracial society. They had a lot of, the British in the Caribbean dumped slaves in Belize who wouldn't behave well. So there's a whole group in Durango, Carib people who still have African customs. And in the southern part of the country, there's only one highway, and there's a big jaguar preserve. No roads at all in the southern part of the country. This is one of the main highways in Belize, crossing the Hummingbird Mountains, and that is a banana plantation. We made several trips to Belize over a couple of years, and I think this is probably the Leica cameras I carried. The first trip, I did have electronics, and the electronics got messed up in the rainforest. And the second trip, I totally had manual, non-electronic cameras. But I did carry a 6x7 Mamiya medium format and a tripod all over the place. This is the main highway to the south, halfway between the two main towns of Durango and Punta Gorda, at somebody's living homestead. When it rains, the highways, you end up having a real big problem. This is a blue hole, which is a water thing. Belize is made mainly of limestone, and they get a lot of these. And the Mayans used to use these for religious ceremonies. But this is a beautiful, beautiful sight. And because of this, there's a lot of caves. This is nighttime near the coast, and it's like more like a savanna there. So it's not the trees. What I was shocked by was this. I thought I would be able to take endless amounts of pictures in the rainforest. I had no idea of two things: the density. This is in the Jaguar Preserve, and that is actually a trail. And the other thing, it's incredibly dark in the rainforest, and it's hard to really see things. I was raised in Oklahoma and did a lot of, I never hunted, but my family did, and I would go with them. So I would track animals and things. I thought I was very good at it until I got to Belize, and I was absolutely overrun by the sensory overload. And every time you would take a picture, it would look like this. It would look that dense. This is another example near a stream, so it's a little sparser, but extremely hard to see things. So we're down in the Jaguar Preserve. We came upon this airplane which had crashed, obviously, into the Jaguar Preserve. And the amazing thing about that was the motor had been stripped. I'm sure it was flying somewhere else after being repaired in Central America. Both rings were totally sheared off when it came in. No idea what happened if people got injured. I'm sure they did. But the big problem that I had when he got to the Jaguar Preserve, I had never heard of the Fer-de-Lance, which is a pit viper. I've been around in Oklahoma, every time we got flooded, we would have snakes come up to the driveway. So I've been around rattlesnakes and water moccasins. This snake is impossible to see and is very, very deadly. I later met archaeologists from Penn who were working in Belize, and they were telling me about the problems they would have at the site they were exploring with the lens, because you would get into tree stumps, all kinds of things, and you couldn't see. It's an ambush predator, just sits by the side of the road. The first day we drove into the Jaguar Preserve, we got out of the Jeep, and I saw something moving through the grass in the parking area, and it was a rat upside down. It was in the mouth of the snake. The black and white, the dark, and it's a little bit of an opening there because there's a stream, Jaguar Preserve. I thought I would do paintings. I never really did, again, because of the density. Because it's limestone, they have an enormous number of caves. And Mayans often used the cave for religious rituals. In the western part of Belize, near Guatemala, they have mountains, the Mayan mountains. And this is a river. It goes into a cave. You probably can't see an enormous number of footsteps down in the sand by the river. It's a really large cave. Going into caves were dangerous again because of the snakes. You had to be really, really careful. We ran into some identifiable snakes and some unidentifiable ones at the mouth of the caves. This is the Mayan mountains. Again, it doesn't look like the rainforest, but it's actually at a higher altitude near Guatemala, and a lot of waterfalls like this, not huge ones, but going down in steps. This is a bridge in the Jaguar Preserve on a trail. Even though you can't see the top, you can, when you get real close to it, you do notice that people go through there. It's the largest Jaguar Preserve, and probably the only one in the world. Huge trees like this, lovely trees. The other amazing thing at this location was kind of cleared out on the ground. It wasn't as dense. There were an enormous number of hummingbirds that would practically come up to you because they're not afraid of people. This also is Belize. In the western part of Belize, a Mennonite community from Canada moved in, and they turned an area, a farming area, into a community. It really reminded me of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It didn't make any sense, but that's their fields. You know, they stripped it and they farmed, and they've been living down there for years. When the digital stuff came in, I was working at community. I had left the art department and I was moved first to the library. But because I didn't have an MLS degree, even though I was the only one that knew how to catalog the catalog system for the slides, I ended up also working with the audiovisual department because they needed somebody to draw. We were doing a lot of educational software, particularly in the biomedical fields and biology slideshows, where you'd look at the specimen that you were supposed to be looking at under the microscope in the lab. So I started dealing with digital programs. Before that, I had worked on analog programs. In publication, I knew how to work on typesetters and stack cameras. A totally different world. The computer changed everything, not only in photography, where this is the period where the AP switched to digital, and friends at the Inquirer had to switch to digital. So we were all learning. So this is one of the first digital applications of color to a black and white photo I took an old photo of one of my daughter's birthday party. It's my wife is Korean, as you can probably see. But that is a traditional first year birthday party. They put money and fruit out on a table. And I slowly, manically sat there and made the painting behind her head look a little bit like the real painting. And there's another in a digital of I think it's Marion Station is a park over there. That's my our three daughters. Two of my daughters at the opera company of Philadelphia, they volunteered to be cheerleading in Trail Fisher. And our youngest daughter with a colt. So I got really used to doing the color on a black and white. A little bit faster than applying oil paint because you don't have to worry about it drying. And I spent a lot of time going to museums, and I decided to take pictures, but I'm taking pictures of things that people probably ignore, and only objects, not paintings. This is Philadelphia Museum, and it's a Buddha in the background of a figure. Often I'll do it two or three different ways. This is just plain digital color, I think, yeah. But this, I started experimenting with substrate printing on watercolor paper. There's a company called Inkade. It makes substrates which you can put on any surface and run it through a printer and put the photograph right on it. This is probably augmented with pencils. The color, I think, is colored pencils, but that's a watercolor paper. I've never been completely happy with the watercolor paper, but it's interesting. New York City, this is the Metropolitan Museum. This was on a fence outside the museum, probably advertising a exhibition of, I think that's Hellenistic, so it's probably Roman architecture, but it was several years ago. And I printed this on rice paper, and we created a transparency, which I liked. And these are the funny little objects in the museum that no one pays any attention to. Which are quite, I find them quite amazing. I think it's in Philadelphia. Yeah, obviously the one on the left is a lobby, and that's a bust. I think it's Spanish art, which is that. And this is Philadelphia. And during the pandemic, I went back and I started changing things. The background I changed totally. And there's a little, very sculpture sitting in Philadelphia. I love this one because I had a lot of friends that did ceramics, and I've always been drawn to ceramics. And the idea of painting on them is interesting, especially the pattern. This became an obsession. I was walking on Market Street one day, and I was passing the Scepter building, which is like Trolfin Market. And I looked down into the building, and I could see this reflection, and there was refraction going, all kinds of light things going on. And I knew from printing photographs in the old black and white film days, it would have been impossible for me to be able to control it. I I got the one in 1990. I got a cold head enlarger, which was wonderful for fiber painting, for fiber papers, but I couldn't do anything like it. So I have a pocket camera with a German lens. I carry almost every day, and I just hauled it out on a whim and took the picture. And this is the result, where you get inside the building, and the very top of the photograph is across the street. And I was stunned that I could do this. So I overdosed in doing this. This is Trophan Arch, I think. It was a bank there which had been empty for a while, but it was double glass because you could shoot from 12th Street into Arch Street and get the convention center and the car, which was on the side. And it created almost like a cubist inverse universe. So I ended up walking around looking for places that would work. 13th and Market, it's the entrance to the subway. Which every time I've gone there, depending on the light, it's been totally different. This is New York City, near Rockefeller Center, where the auction house is. And that was the window of the auction house. And the background is the building where Saturday Night Live is broadcast, which is across the street. The entrance to the subway at City Hall, Durrell Plaza. 11th and Market, I think it is. Or 10th and Market, one of these two. And you can always tell it's across the street when the language gets reversed like that. So you get combinations of things, totally unpredictable. Philadelphia, 12th and Market. The Italian Market, and this was probably, I worked on a project at Da Vinci Art Alliance with John Prune, who's here. They did a Rocky rerun where I went around to the places that Rocky movies were filmed and tried to make photographs. And in doing that, I was down there and I got this one. It's totally reversed. The Rizzo mural, which is no longer there, would actually be on the right. This is New York City. It's Macy's Christmas window a few years back on 34th Street. A whole lot of red. You know, some straightforward and some reversed. And these prints are very large. I've done them up to 40 inches. The old International Center for Photography window, which used to be, I think, Madison and 42nd, around there. In New York City, they had it is where you could get the people in the window, the artwork and the street combined. They moved down to the Bowery and they no longer have this location. Philadelphia again, and that is the Scepter building coming to Yellow Ray, where you get the people on the sidewalk, a little bit of the lower level of the Scepter building across the street. And Reading Terminal on the left, which is really on the right. Another one at the cheesesteak. The one on the left is from Shenandoah, Pennsylvania. It's a window of a miner not a museum, but a dude who runs a barber shop collected miner tools for years, and he put them in the window. The one on the right is the auction house again, of a holding a gold Buddha, and the building and as a bus passing is from the street. This is down by what used to be Runamaker's and now Macy's. You can see City Hall up on the left, and somehow through the glass, the floor of the interior got put onto the street. Light, refraction and reflection could create amazing universes. Art Street, and probably around 12th. It's South Broad Street. I was just walking in. I often carry cameras. This is New York City. And I think it's the last two of this series. The one on the left is the Starbucks in Lexington and 86 in New York. And the one on the right is another one from the Italian market. I've done both of these in metal and very large. I was just sitting with somebody in Starbucks, and I realized that when the window was doing and pulled a camera out on a whim and got lucky. This is a long-term project which is not finished because I'm working with my cousin who teaches economic history, and he's now teaching in Japan. And we were beginning in 2016, we went out to south of Pittsburgh originally to look at the declining economics for the area, particularly the big industries, which have left buildings pretty much stripped without people. But going out there, we found a whole other story. Living in Philadelphia for 50 years, I had lost all, I had no sense of really what Pennsylvania was really like and how different areas are. This is what I expected to see, of course, the old farm and corn and, neatly wonderful landscape. And I knew coal existed, of course, and no longer, this is up in eastern Pennsylvania, Shamokin. Going into the town, this is a big sign. And coal is still there and still being mined. And this is eastern Pennsylvania. Just driving down the highway, we ran across this. Well, this is western Pennsylvania, and the Monongahela River, that's a coal still used to transport coal. But that's Brownsville, which was the first town we went to in western Pennsylvania. I later met two people who are teaching it at one a community, one a Penn, who grew up there. They would tell me what the town used to be like. Pretty quaint looking from a distance. This is the General Hospital in Brownsville. Shut down in around the year 2000. It's already totally overgrown, including inside. I have photographs inside where they're like, it's totally, the whole building's been stripped. So they don't have a hospital. They don't have a police department because they couldn't afford it. So they used the state police. If you want to buy food, there were only two places to buy food. One was like a Rite Aid, and you could go across the river to East Brownsville to a Walmart. No other, nothing. Total and depopulated. You had that on top of it. This is what I expected to find more in Pennsylvania, and still exists. This is the Bloomsburg Police Department and City Hall. Wonderful old building. Roseboro is another trip we're making with a diner. A city in fairly good shape. But we came upon things like this, which I thought was funny. This is on a highway not near anything. It's just sitting there. Of course, we got out and it doesn't work. This is a church where they got so depopulated, they no longer have a community using it. It's at, I think, in Potter County, which is a very strange place, which I'll show something later. Donora, which is in south of Pittsburgh, famous because in 1948, they had a smog attack. It lasted about a week, and 20-some people died. 6,000 people ended up being hospitalized because there was so much heavy industry on that part of the river. They have, this was just in a normal building. They also have probably the only smog museum in the world. And you would run into buildings like this, which just wonderful, surrounded by trees and all. Another one, good shape. This is supposedly a movie theater, which I think is only showing religious political films. That's an old building being rehabbed. The one on the right is not being rehabbed. You find a lot of buildings in what we would probably think would be more likely looking like Philadelphia. And actually, a town like Reading is probably in worse shape than Philadelphia, but people don't want to believe it. A rocket on the American Legion post in Mildred. On the left, on the Lincoln Highway coming back from south of Pittsburgh, we ran into this, the Big Mac Museum. It is an actual museum of the Big Mac. On the right, that's, I think she's in the House of Representatives of the state. They were having concealed carry seminars, the complete opposite of what we need in Philadelphia, being promoted by people. Potter County has a history of not only the Ku Klux Klan, but they have active militia groups in the area. It's an extremely right-wing community. This, off the Lincoln Highway near the 9/11 memorial where the plane came down in Pennsylvania, and I don't think it's more than 800 meters from the entrance to the 9/11, we came upon this, which is being maintained by some group. It somehow is tying the Flight 93 to God punishing us for abortions. And the sign was not, didn't have any sign of being destroyed and all. This is in northern Pennsylvania, and you run across a lot of this reinvestigate 9/11. I came back from the trip in 2016 believing Hillary Clinton was in big trouble in Pennsylvania. I went out there not thinking it was possible Trump would win. And my last one, which I loved, the China, right, this is a county fair in Bloomsburg. And I know since the pandemic, I'm in West Philadelphia, we've had an infusion of rats. The last thing I'd want to see is a rat. When I lived in Old City, they still had river rats, and they had a storefront of a rat catcher's business. So they had photographs of rats the size of cats they would catch down by the river. Lancaster Avenue has been a little bit of an obsession by me, another one. I lived in Powelton from 69 to probably 73. And I'm now living in Overbrook near Lancaster Avenue on the other end. And I started taking photographs of the buildings, which is amazing is buildings come and go, but they never get that changed that much. And this place became readings, a group were teaching remedial reading, and now it's like coffee house, but this is what it looked like a few years ago, 39th. And buildings just go away. This is fairly close to where I live. No longer there. The number 10 trolley goes down Lancaster Avenue, and I started riding it after I retired from community college. And I started taking photographs, probably at the cell phone photo of the food market, which went away but came back with the same name. Again, the number 10 trolley cell phone photo. This is down fairly close. I can tell it's near Powelton. Going the other way in the number 10 trolley, where you get the interior of the trolley and the exterior of the architecture of Lancaster Avenue. This is right below Overbrook High School. It used to be a barbecue place, and I absolutely loved this sign. I took so many photographs of this to see what I could get in different conditions. This is the remains of the barbecue place. It looks like a bunker. Same place in Hoosier, Bubba. You can see Overbrook High School on the lower thing. I started taking pictures out here of I wanted to do every building for stretches, and I would go out on Sundays and do it 2 times. Like I stopped by the Philadelphia Police on 50 near Lancaster and 52nd for taking pictures. I really didn't know what the hell I was doing, like taking pictures. I had this notion that I could strip together a whole lot of buildings, like the well-known Sunset Strip, Ed Watchker's piece, which is a pretty stupid idea. I thought I could do from City Line all the way to Drexel. I don't know. You couldn't output it as a physical. You'd have to do it digitally. This is the location of Martin Luther King spoke at 40th in Lancaster. Lots of buildings like this still left over. At one time, Lancaster Avenue was a private toll road that went to Lancaster way back. So it's like an arterial highway, been around for a long time. Lou's Exterminating Supply Company. I need to re-photograph this because it's all, he keeps having somebody paint these ads and they're totally different every year, but they look the same. Whoever is doing it has the same style. JB Radio, no longer there. Everyday Discount also gone. These are cell phone photos too. That's the easier way to take pictures in trolleys, not get people annoyed. The Texas Arena, and this is now a evangelical church. Obviously, I'm guessing it was a bank at one time. For some reason, they put artwork of a bathtub in the window of one of the big old apartment buildings on Lancaster Avenue. This is a newer food market. Where I live, we've been stripped of most of our food large grocery stores are gone, including the guy who's running for mayor, who says he brings food into the neighborhoods. He closed our Rite Aid. So down here, it is nothing. There's also an Acme in Overbrook Park gone. There's lots of things gone. But this opened fairly recently. Disability, Lancaster. Again, I have probably hundreds of these when it falls somewhere. I had a night photo of the intersection of 52nd and Lancaster with a woman with incredible red hair sitting in front of me. Cell phone. Right. These photos are my everyday, I hate to use the word practice, but it's probably irrelevant. I carry cameras all the time. And if something catches my whim, I would do it City Hall from the Parkway. The government of the people on the right image. Again, you got lucky, that shadow. I've taken this picture of this many times, but didn't have such a good shadow. And the people walking in front of it, I think, helped. There were people on the edge, which I actually took out because they were hanging out of the frame, out of the image, and I thought it wasn't as clean. And that's the kind of thing you can do now. When I started, you couldn't take people out of the picture. I really like the sculpture. I remember Rizzo saying it looked like a pile of shit. Sister City Park with heightened color. I started as a color field painter, and color has always been important to me, even if it's overdone. And I don't paint I don't paint abstractions anymore. Those days are long gone. I'm old. One day, I was going down to the University of the Arts to visit my oldest daughter, and these people were lining up for some reason outside of the Academy of Music, and just having a camera, I just took the picture. That's the advantage of carrying a camera all the time. A real cliche picture, but clouds make all the difference in the world. Without the clouds, it would not be half the picture. Same for this, looking back the other way. A dude going into 1500 Market with reflections from the glass. Again, having a camera with me allowed that. Nighttime, 30th Street. I didn't even know I had this. When I was preparing this, I was going through so many directories. I found this, and I had no memory of even taking it, but it had to be fairly recent because it was taken with a with my good Nikon. Down by the Cherry Street Pier one day, I looked up and I thought this was interesting and just took the picture. B Street Bridge. When I was doing the Rocky Rerun exhibition, I was up in this area, and the fact that Muir Arts had painted the bridge made all the difference. Now this is the big epidemic of opioid area. Love Park. I've done this a couple of times. Other people do this too. It's Barnes Foundation. You get a good shadow reflection of the free library on a good day. So it's a little wider than all the ones I've done. So the foliage, I think, adds to it. These are fairly two recent photos. The one on the left, it's one of the Comcast buildings shot from another Comcast building. The one on the right, I was up a Trillium Gallery and walking to Old City, and I came upon this. I've been past this many times, and I'm taking many pictures, but I had my pocket camera, and I just took this picture, which I kind of like. I also still, going back to my publication days, will go to an event and take a picture. This is Spring Garden and Broad. After Charlottesville demonstration, they had a demonstration, counter demonstration in Philadelphia a couple of weeks later. And I liked the fact that the kids were riding piggyback and having that wonderful wall mural in the background made big difference. I have a very large metal one, which I've exhibited around the National Liberty Museum and other places. And of course, the mummers. I realized the mummers were the one opportunity to find unlimited amount of color. The last couple of years, of course, have been bad because of the pandemic, so this is probably around 216. What I started doing was going to the staging area, not when they're marching, when they're getting ready to march. And this group of two-streeters were waiting for their turn. This is the back of Furco String Band, I think. And again, it's the color and the compositional sense that I really like. And of course, if you're a mummer, you have to get ready by drinking Bud Light. These dudes had a case of Bud Light in the staging area preparing for their march. Again, in the staging area, you can come around clumps of people. This is actually during the march of a string band captain with followers behind him, a wall. We had people walking with it. And this is the last photo. This guy holding this doll of Charlotte. I'm never sure which. I changed my mind like numerous times. But I'm looking forward to being able to get out to do the mummers again this year. And that's all I have. I really worried about this guy. I have so many photos. I didn't know what to do, and I kept re-editing. And the last thing I want to do is make a